Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining today. My name is Shannon Bell, and I am the Executive Director here of the admissions team for the UCLA Anderson Executive MBA program and our Global Executive MBA program. I really appreciate you joining us today. This is actually very exciting. This is our first event of a new three-part series that we're hosting. UCLA Executive MBA program actually brings students in from far beyond the Los Angeles region. In fact, you'll learn, and I'll show you a breakdown of this in a little bit, but we typically only have about half of our students that live in LA. So we wanted to give you, the prospective students, the opportunity to really hear from some of these alumni who actually chose UCLA, even though they were outside of the California region. So today's session actually will feature 4 fabulous alumni who lived in the Pacific Northwest during the program. So that's what the focus is of today's session. But on September 26th, we'll have our Southwest region panel. And on October 11th, we will have our East Coast and Midwest event as well. So all of these events will be recorded. And, in case you can't make them, definitely we can make them available for you. Just to give you very quick, this is going to be an hour session. I'm going to give you a very brief overview first of the program, but truthfully, this is a very short overview. We have other events that go much deeper into our programming. So please, we will send in a follow-up, our 30-minute on-demand virtual webinar. That's a great way to get an overview. Or if you get notices about our upcoming Dean's previews or campus experiences, we go much more in depth on those as well. As far as Q&A during this session, feel free to use the chat for any Q&A, but we will also leave time in the second half of the presentation or the event to make sure and open in the floor as well. So thank you for this slide. Vanessa, this is where I wanted to land next. This is the admissions team. Hopefully some of you maybe have already met us. If not, we are all here and excited to help you on this journey. So please know that you can, I do Q&As, like virtual Zoom Q&As, every single Tuesday and Thursday at noon Pacific Standard Time. So always feel free to drop in and join one of those to talk to me directly. Also, Debbie on our team hosts one-on-ones on a frequent basis, so you can sign up and really get some feedback on your candidacy and ask specific questions. So lots of ways to connect with us, and we really look forward to meeting you. So next slide. So this is just to quickly ground you on that we have 2 different distinct executive MBA programs. We've got the UCLA Anderson Executive MBA, which this refers to our Los Angeles-based program. And that will be the program we'll primarily focus on for today and where our alumni are coming on. But I like to mention that we do have this dual degree global executive MBA. It's in partnership with one of the top Asian business schools, some of you may be familiar with, called National University of Singapore. So this is a great option if you would benefit from having that Asia Pacific plus US focused curriculum and network. Our admission team that you just met before, we actually recruit for both of these programs because the student profile is very similar. Both programs require a minimum of 8 years of professional work experience. Average for both programs is about 15 years. And a minimum of 5 years of management responsibilities, with the average being 9. I do want to point out that our definition of management is not just people management. It also goes beyond, meaning if you oversee projects or budgets as well. Both of these programs are definitely designed for working professionals, and they provide you that immediate opportunity to take what you learn and apply those learnings, to your work and bring them back. And your classmates also bring real world examples and a wealth of really interesting functional and industry expertise as well. So both of these are definitely opportunities to challenge yourself and really an opportunity of a lifetime. So just to go into kind of a little bit, I just want to quickly ground. I know people, when they're thinking about an MBA, they're like, how will I ever fit this into my life with how busy I am? So I do like to just point out kind of the schedule and how that would work. So the Los Angeles-based program is a 22-month program. starts every year in August. We have the traditional, what you may see as the Executive MBA kind of schedule from other schools, where you come to class every other weekend. You come on campus, and that's usually Friday nights and all day Saturday. We also have our monthly and blended options, which are what we call our hybrid options, where you only have to come to campus one weekend per month. And that means only 3 times per quarter. So especially if you are calling in from outside the California area, these are really popular options because you're only coming to campus once a month. And then in between, you can do some on-demand content if you choose the monthly, or if you choose the blended, there's some live Zoom classes for you to interact as well with your classmates. The UCLA and US Executive MBA program may also be good for someone living outside California because this program brings you around the world. So this program starts in May of 2024 and actually brings you to 6 distinct segments where you go for about a week to 2 weeks in country. So it's a more accelerated program where you're really learning these and doing these classes within a short period of time, but very exciting because it happens all over the world. 2 of the segments in Los Angeles, 2 in Singapore at the National University of Singapore campus, and then 1 in Shanghai and 1 in India. So going to the next slide. So let's talk about kind of where the students come from. Our students do come, you can see that only about half from Los Angeles. So this by no means is what I would call a regional program. You know, there are some schools that really attract really primarily just people from their region, but we are not LA centric. We're very much a national program. We have people coming. This is our class that just entered, but it's typical. You can see about 9% coming from outside the US, which that equates to about 14 students total. Years before, like I looked at the year prior, and that was about 16 students coming from out of state, about 10%, and then a few international. So definitely possible if there's, you know, reasons that UCLA comes to the top of your list, and very doable with the schedule. So I want to highlight for you, but this will be the last slide before we get into the panel. But the panelists may speak to some of this, but I just want to say that there's 4 main things that I hear from non-California-based students of why they choose the program and kind of what differentiates us from some of the programs you may be looking at in your region. One is what the cohort makeup is. You know, many places across the U.S., there are just dominant industries in different parts of the country. So, Northeast, those programs, those executive MBA programs, NYU, Columbia, Wharton, they tend to be very finance heavy because of the population and the industries there. Up in the Pacific Northwest, where you may be, has become very tech centric. So, a lot of the cohort may look very tech heavy. What's so cool about our program and what really differentiates is we actually recruit in a way that we make sure that we've got a lot of industries represented and a lot of functions. And we actually put you in learning teams that we call the mini board model, where you will actually not be in a learning group where anybody is in your industry or function. And you get 2 of these during your time in the program. And the 3rd study group you actually put together at the end yourself, because that's who you work on your master's thesis with. But just a really broad perspective, broad area of your perspectives. Second is customizing your MBA. We really believe that electives should be a huge part of the Executive MBA program. That does not mean we are not cohort-based. We are definitely still cohort-based. But when it comes to electives, you can really pick from a wide variety and different specializations like entrepreneurship, finance, marketing, global management, tech management. These are some of the most popular and very doable even if you're traveling in from outside of the region. So again, something to look at when you're looking at other programs and seeing how important that is to you. I mentioned entrepreneurship. This is definitely something really special about what we offer. We are the only, I think us and MIT Sloan are the only programs that actually have an entrepreneurship focused capstone thesis. This means that your last 2 quarters in the program, when you're kind of focusing, most schools are offering a consulting project where you consult with a real world company. We do offer that, but we also offer something called business creation program, where you are actually going through the exercise of starting a company with your classmates. About almost half of our students are choosing this now. I will tell you, over half of our students are not leaving their corporate jobs, but they really feel this is a really beneficial skill set to have, whether you're in the corporate setting or a true entrepreneur. Finally, UCLA is a global brand. It just came out this week, really exciting. For the 7th year in a row, U.S. News and World Report ranked us the #1 public university in the country. So it's something we're really proud about. Actually, Poets and Quants, this is the ranking time. Poets and Quants came out yesterday with their top EMBA programs. We're tied for #5. So across all the rankings, we're in the top 10 for EMBA programs, and truly just have a global alumni network. So, that is another thing that I hear as a differentiator for us. So now let's hear, though, I can tell you all day long as an admissions person what I think the differentiators are, but I'd love to hear from, definitely I'm going to bring on each of our panelists here, as well as my colleague Debbie Quigley, who will be moderating the panel for you. And each one of them can really share about their experience and why they chose UCLA. So Debbie, I'll hand it over to you. And then when you pick the first one to spotlight, we'll go ahead and spotlight them. And thank you to our panelists. Sorry, I just want to say thank you to our esteemed panelists for taking the time for this.
Thanks, Shannon. Yes, definitely. Thank you so much to the panel. I'm so excited to hear from these amazing alumni today, too, because I've really only been here for about a year, so I think they all graduated before my time. Lindsey's the newest graduate, and I would love to start with her. And really, again, we're just wanting to hear about your journey, your background, why you chose UCLA coming from out of the region in the Pacific Northwest. And maybe you can add in a little bit about work-life balance, because I know a lot of people ask us about that, especially when you're dedicating the time to travel in for the program. And finally, what were your biggest takeaways? So welcome, everyone. Lindsey, Liz, Hari, and Drew. I know Drew's multitasking, and I'm sure he'll come on in a little bit. He's down there. So welcome again, Lindsey. Do you want to kick it off for us?
Yeah, thank you so much, Debbie. I'd be more than happy to. So happy to talk about my background. So I've been in data analytics my whole entire career, more or less on the tech side. And I really wanted to come to UCLA just so I could become more of a double-edged sword and understand more of the business and be able to translate that into technology and really kind of just bridge the gap between the two. I decided to choose UCLA, which has been a very long journey for me. I've been eyeballing UCLA since 2011, give or take. And it's so funny because Liz, who's also on the panel, when I was my second attempt of going to UCLA, I just had a lot of different challenges come up where I was not able to go to UCLA. But when I was looking at UCLA the second time, I had the opportunity to reach out to Liz and have a really good conversation with her about her experience at UCLA. And she just was over the top, just so excited, so happy to be at UCLA, really told me how great the cohort was, how everybody was so nice and so friendly. So when I finally was able to have the opportunity to go in 2 years ago, since I just graduated, I can't believe it's gone by so fast. It was interesting because I would reach out to different people within UCLA who are graduates or had recently graduated to ask them for about 30 minutes of their time to talk about their experience, just to get more information. And everyone was always, always, always so welcoming and so willing to give me their time to tell me about their experience. What did they learn? What were some of the positive outcomes of going to UCLA? And I think that just really roped me in, because knowing that you have that alumni network to lean on was something that I was looking forward to as well, because it's something that you can carry on throughout the rest of your career. And onto the third topic, which is, why did I decide to travel back and forth from Oregon to Los Angeles? So I chose the bi-weekly program. So I was in Los Angeles every other weekend. And for me, it was a personal choice because I wanted to learn in person more frequently. And that was just my own personal choice and wanting to do that. And at times it can be very tiring, but I think for me, it was really nice just to get out of the Pacific Northwest, come into LA and be like, oh my gosh, it's so sunny, every other weekend, which was really, really nice. Definitely became an Alaska Ruby Miler or whatever they call it, got a lot of airline points as well. But I do think for me, I just really wanted to be with my cohort. And again, we're coming out of the pandemic. I really wanted to be around people. And so that was a lot of the reason why I also chose to do biweekly. And the biggest value for me post-graduation was really, and I'm sure many others are going to say this, is it's the network, the people that you meet, the opportunity to be able to call on the alumni, have those conversations. And I think just giving back, I've been, my career trajectory, my life trajectory hasn't been very, I don't know how to explain this, but I guess, like a single mom, I raised my daughter by myself. It wasn't, I guess, a straight and narrow line. And I think for me, looking at UCLA, I always felt very welcomed. I never felt like an outsider. I always felt like I belonged, and everyone was so, so, so nice. And I can't signify like how much that means when sometimes you feel like maybe you don't belong there because you're like the first person in your family to go to school and even get like a graduate degree. And UCLA definitely makes you feel like it's home. And so it was an amazing experience for me, and I hope it is for you as well.
Thank you so much, Lindsey. I love that you've not only spoken to the collaborative spirit of the program, but that you and Liz connected even before you started the program, and that was kind of a seminal helped you make that decision. So that's amazing. I love to connect alumni and current students, even with prospective students, to get that insight. So thank you so much. Why don't we go to Liz now, since you've got that connection going, and would love to hear more about your journey as well, Liz.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And thank you all for making time. It's really great to see people on the call and the interest to start a new adventure. So my name is Liz Cercado, born and raised in El Paso, Texas. So when we speak about sunshine, definitely missed that when I went to the Pacific Northwest, and I didn't know I took the sun for granted. So I studied mechanical engineering as an undergrad at the University of Texas at El Paso, and then made my way up to the Pacific Northwest to work for Boeing on the commercial airplane side of the house. So spent a lot of time in product development, and just, I'd say in terms of an MBA on its own, it was always part of the plan. Air quote plan. And I will also say that timing, I think a lot of folks consider the MBA kind of your late 20s, mid 20s, early 30 timeframe, anywhere from your 3 years of experience and above. And admittedly, I just wasn't ready to do the MBA at that time. I was enjoying my life. I was enjoying putting my all into work. And I wasn't quite thinking that it was the right time, from the 0 to almost 10-year mark. And so why Anderson, right? And when did that decision tree come? So it was about 2016, before the world flipped over. 2016 is when I started to say, you know what, I'm ready for this. And I remember going to different MBA fairs. So hopefully, if y'all aren't aware, there's several organizations that host MBA fairs. You can go meet and talk to different admissions teammates and alumni. And I remember going up and asking, typical questions. And at the time, my mindset was very much, your options are full-time, they are part-time, online or in person. And I didn't know about the Executive MBA track. And it wasn't until I had several admissions folks say, hey, have you considered the Executive MBA program? It's like, not an executive. I am not in that level of hierarchy for the organization. It's like, oh, but you have years of experience, you have XYZ, you should really consider the Executive MBA program. So I mentioned that I went to the University of Texas at El Paso. So I didn't do the typical undergrad, go visit college campuses, see if you like it, see the fit. And I said, you know what, for my MBA, I want that. I want a top ranked business school. I want to see what that experience is like. So I did a roadshow, or I guess a flight show. And so I went out to the Midwest. I visited Booth, I visited Kellogg, and I visited Ross in Michigan. And then just trying to get a feel for, just trying to get a feel for it. Yes, you can read everything online. Yes, you can, talk to alumni. I wanted that experience, and I'm really happy that I did, because I did gather a lot of helpful information. And it was November 2nd of 2016 that I got invited to participate and attend the Wooden Awards in Southern California. And for those of you who have not heard of that event, it's a signature event for UCLA Anderson, and it brings together all walks of life. And that was hosted under the Endeavor shuttle. And I just remember going to that event and being in awe. It's like, we're having dinner under the shuttle, like, whoa. And that was when I just felt very humbled, and like the reality of what UCLA Anderson provides from an access standpoint. It's like, wow, I'm getting to connect with amazing people in different walks of life. And this is what Anderson could provide. So yes, there's a little bit of emotion and quiver, because I remember that feeling from 2016. And it was then really that I was looking at the information from going to other schools and saying, UCLA Anderson wanted me as much as I wanted them. And I can't say that I had the same experience from other schools. It was very much, you come to us, and we have plenty of folks in our pipeline. And I didn't feel that at UCLA. And I can tell you that I had great, support from the admissions team and the staff. And it didn't change once I gave them a paycheck, which is, let's admit it, it's a huge investment in dollars as well. And so that's really what yielded the Anderson experience. I chose the monthly program, mostly from a logistics standpoint and my statement of work at the time. I was a first line leader. I had, between 27 and 29 direct reports, and just limited flexibility from a flex your schedule or be sponsored on your time. And so what it looked like is I would work on Thursday. I would catch a flight Thursday night, became a loyal member to Alaska Airlines. And I would fly out, be there Friday. If there was a conference, if there were classes, if it was catching up on homework, I would do that during that Friday, go to classes, hang out with friends, do your thing. Saturday classes, Sunday classes, sometimes if you're doing an elective, and I chose to do the global management certificate. So I did that. Fly back Sunday, work on Monday. And I can tell you that Monday was exhausting. And, by 7 p.m., that's being gracious, I was in bed and would sleep through that next Monday, that next Tuesday. And so again, this is an investment of you and your loved ones and everyone you know. But I just wanted to paint a picture of what that looked like. And I had a dot calendar that told me when I needed to be on campus and plan my life around that. And so it was really, really helpful. And just with respect to, what I gained from it, right? So I never would have dreamed that I would have the opportunity to go to China, Argentina, and Colombia in 2 years while working full time, right? Just like, wow, how awesome was that experience? And so it was just so eye-opening. And it is honestly the first time that I thought that my organization was small. And I worked for a company that had 100,000 plus employees. So just it really, I think, opened my eyes to other walks of life, to other spheres of influence that I could play in. And I think what I've gained out of the program, to complement what Lindsey said on the network side, but it was also building up that confidence for myself. Being a Hispanic woman in engineering leadership is not common. And so, having a little bit more education behind my belt to hear questions differently and to ask questions differently, I can't tell you how to monetize that. And I think it has served me well, after graduating, the world flipped, right? So great timing on doing the program. And, since then I've pivoted industries, I've pivoted locations, and I know that my education at UCLA Anderson, and specifically the EMBA program, had a part in that. So I can't say enough. So hopefully you can hear the enthusiasm. But it was just a really life-changing experience. And I hope that you all find your path on your adventure and find what suits you best for your program.
Thank you so much, Liz. I loved hearing your story and how you really did the research behind which program, and that you found a home and a community here at Anderson. And what amazing things you've been doing since then. So thank you so much. And just to mention, we will definitely open it up for questions after the 4 panelists speak. But if you do have questions, you can also put those in the chat. Shannon will be monitoring the chat. So again, and I also heard one commonality here. There's a lot of airline miles that we're talking about. So, maybe that helped you get to all of those amazing locations within 2 years, right? So. Wonderful. Well, Hari, I'd like to welcome you also and hear about your experience coming to the program from the Pacific Northwest and your background and the decision that you made to attend UCLA.
Sure. Thanks, Debbie. Thanks, Shannon, for having me. Before I start, let me go a little bit into my background. I'm from India. I did my bachelor's in India in mechanical engineering. I worked in India for a couple of years before I came to the US. I came to the US to do my master's and PhD. I finished my PhD in mechanical engineering, and I started working in the aerospace industry. But unlike Liz, I worked on the space side of the world. Mostly working on either the launch vehicles or the space robotics, and so fun projects. So like with most of the jobs that when you start out, you're an individual contributor, and then as you make your way up, you get the option to either be a people manager or you get to be a project manager. So I chose that, or I was rather avoiding being a people manager because I was not sure whether I had the right skill sets. But that does not mean that I knew I had the skill sets of being a project manager. It's just that I felt that I had a better handle. So this is around the time that there were a lot of space companies starting up. I'm talking about 2015. So there were a lot of space companies starting up. In fact, there was a space boom. And I was very curious on finding out how all these space companies were going to kind of survive, what their business plan was, what the business case was, and how were they going to do it. So I was in LA at the time, but I was not sure I was going to be there because I was thinking of shifting jobs, but I was not sure. And it was around this time that I ran into a friend of mine, well, not really a friend of mine, my daughter's friend's dad, who had finished his FEMBA from Anderson. So I got talking to him. So he has a similar background, but he was in the software side of the world. And he had wonderful things to say about Anderson. So he basically told me about how Anderson helped him. And of course, it's always the networking that people talk about. He mentioned how great the networking was, how great the alumni was, and how I was able to leverage the alumni and how responsive the alumni were. That got me interested because, like Liz said, MBA was always in the plan, but I never knew when the right time was. So I felt maybe that was the time that I need to kind of take the plunge and apply. I looked at other schools, but I liked the mix that Anderson had. When I talk about the mix, I'm talking about the industries from where the students were coming in from. I love that. It is not like it is not concentrated in one particular industry. So that is something that really attracted me to Anderson. But I was still not sure whether I want to do the full-time or the Executive MBA. So when I reached out to the admissions team at Anderson, they helped me figure out that I would fit better with the Executive MBA program. I applied, was super excited when I got in, and was also super apprehensive because I knew that I was moving to Seattle. So I was not sure how I was going to juggle the two, starting a new job in Seattle, commuting to LA, and doing this program, which I knew was going to be challenging. But spoke to a couple of people. I'm not sure whether I spoke to Liz before, but I did talk to you after I joined. So a couple of folks, and they assured me that it was possible. It is hard, but it is possible. So I did take the plunge. And the interesting thing was we had 75% of our classes in person, and we were the 2020 batch, the COVID batch that graduated. So we had over 25% of our classes was online. The best thing about Anderson was definitely, like everyone mentioned, the cohort. When you have these breakout sessions, when you work on these case studies or these study groups, it is the diversity of the skill sets that your classmate has, the experience that they bring. That was the best part. Just the different ideas that they have. So you could bounce ideas off, not just among the study group that you have, but even during classes, even during the classes, after classes. So when I did the monthly program, so it is just once a month. It is mainly because of logistics, because it made sense for me to just travel once a month. And like I said, I was apprehensive since it was a new job and making the commute. So even after classes, we used to hang out. It was wonderful. That camaraderie was real. It was fun, and we learned a lot about each other and what our limitations were, what we could do, and how far we could go, kind of thing. So those are some of the wonderful things, and some of the classes that I loved at Anderson. I just have to kind of do a call out. I love the organizational behavior class, the strategy class, and the negotiations class. Those are the ones that I love, and they really help what I'm doing right now. So right now, as you might have guessed, I do a lot of people management as well, and I have started entering the business development world as well. And I have to say that I wouldn't have been able to do all this if not for Anderson. So Anderson really equipped me to kind of to look at all this, give me this opportunity to kind of be able to kind of give me the confidence that I could handle all this, ask the right questions, listen to people, understand what they're saying, and kind of put forward a strategy that would help the company. Because right now the company that I work for is more or less is in a startup phase. So it is exciting because there's a lot of responsibility. But having that Anderson experience that I had for the 2 years certainly helped me kind of handle the situations that I face right now on a day-to-day basis. Now the commute and the work-life balance that I had, it is a family commitment. It is not just you, so your whole family has to commit to this. So for 2 years, I was warned that I would have to give my life up for Anderson, and I think the couple of people that I met, they kind of went up to my wife and told them that you're not going to see him for the next 2 years. So that is something that that is an exaggeration, but even then, it is a commitment that the whole family makes, that for the next 2 years, you would be, that your weekends are going to be mostly doing the coursework and catching up on all the videos that you need to watch, the assignments that you need to submit. So, yeah, so as long as you're aware of that, I think it's a worthwhile endeavor.
Thank you so much, Hari, and thank you for sharing your experience and the support that you had from your cohort. And I love hearing about, the learnings really from your network within the cohort and the support you got from them. And I hope this is somewhat of a little reunion here and that you guys will do this again. But very much appreciate. The other thing I wanted to mention too that I've heard over and over again is that you really did your research and you found the program that was right for you. I think that's an important point because I think people do get a little bit confused on what the differences between the programs are and different reasons for people wanting to be in different programs too. So hopefully with connecting with current students, alumni, and the admissions team, we can help a prospective student figure that out and make sure that they're in that right, correct program for themselves. So with that, I would love to welcome Drew. Drew, I love your background, I have to say, and it's so nice to meet you. And thank you for joining us today. And we would love to hear from you and your story and what you have to share today out to the prospective students here.
Great.
Welcome.
Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for teaming me up so well. Hari, everyone has brought up great points. Making sure you're in the right program. A lot of what I had prepared to talk about today, Shannon talked through, so I ran out of speaking material, but Hari brought up the fact about the interest in the space program, where I almost went into a partnership doing low Earth orbit biomedical manufacturing after graduation, but then I got a real job at T-Mobile. So it's the path the known path versus the path less taken. So great stuff there. And the network that you make, the friends you keep. I'm actually hosting a friend from the program tonight for dinner who's dropping off his youngest son at UW for his undergrad. So, and this guy on paper wouldn't be a friend, but because we were in the cohort working groups, this guy is a import-export you describe him as a Chinese industrialist. So if I hadn't actually worked with him and had the time to meet him, he would not have become my adult best friend. So yeah, nothing but great things to say there. But in terms of doing your research and where you want to go, this is some of the stuff that Shannon stole from me, but I want to double down on it in a minute. So my background is that I started off in small business with a company called Honest Tea, and small business, as most of us will know, you wear a lot of different hats. So I did everything. Well, the title was essentially sales, but I did everything from brewing the tea to putting it on the shelf. And if you had it between 2004 and 2008, I probably made it for you. So I hope you enjoyed it. Parlayed all the many aspects of that management into working at a tech startup that was acquired by Accenture, and then worked at Accenture learning MarTech, or marketing technology, and what is now called machine learning. Back then we just called it user optimization. And then during the 2009 downturn, or right sizing, if you will, I joined the United States military, figuring that know-how would be useful over there, but wound up spending 9 years in service as a military intelligence officer. Coming out, I started to have to think about the military-civilian transition, which is always difficult. So I went out and got a master's degree, not at Anderson. I did my first in business analytics from UW. So when I started to think about trying to take a leadership role or more advanced role, which the prior masters didn't prepare me for, I looked at, of course, the nearest school of quality, and that was UW. And I know they're starting to cringe a little bit in that I'm building up another school, but it was easy, right? My transcripts just had to go down the hall, so I got accepted there. But being a Bruin from day one, where I was doing the A-clap in my crib with my dad, so I'm as close as you get as a legacy admittance in a public school, I gave Anderson a hard look. It's a great school, and this is where I'm going to jump back into why Anderson. So if you look at, besides just getting a paper, which is interchangeable at any school, and you can go ahead down to Kinko's right now and buy yourself one on the cheap, it comes down to the quality of classes. And the quality of classes is often dictated by your classmates, which we've already covered, but the quality of the professors. And not saying that UW doesn't have great professors, but they aren't being published as often, and their work isn't as notable. So my focuses while I was in the program were marketing, new product development, and technology, which that one paid off a little bit more. Now being at T-Mobile, working strategy on emerging technologies. So if you get a chance, here's your playbook. Take classes from Andres Tarek in marketing strategy or new product development. He's excellent. You can't get around Sebastian Edwards in economics. He's going to teach all of the classes, regardless of what cohort you go into. And his claim to fame was his role in keeping Chile out of the crashes in South America in the early 2000s. So really notable guy. And then we have Noah Goldstein in leadership, really interesting, just published a book. Cassie Holmes, she teaches, and I can't remember the title of the class, but I call it fondly Happy Class. But the thesis is essentially happy, secure managers make for happy employees, which equals production. So, or higher production. So her claim to fame is that she just had an NPR episode of Hidden Brain, was based off of her work, and she had a good chunk in that. So Terry Kramer teaches tech and society, technology management. He leads the technology management cohort. Yep. Thank you, Lindsey. Lindsey and I partnered up in, product management course. So it's great to see her speak a little earlier. And Margaret Shin will teach your organizational behavior class. These are all amazing people. Terry Kramer is one of the examples of a celebrity professor that we have. He was part of the Obama administration. He was a strategist at Vodafone. You can't do better than the professor lineup that we have. And then we are an entrepreneurship heavy course. I did the BCO program, which Sharon talked about a little earlier. Great time. Again, made deeper friendships with David, my friend from China, and Cercado. Sorry, another veteran like myself. I'm sure he has a first name like I do, but last names only. He was a contractor that went back for his MBA and is now a real estate developer. So he definitely upgraded himself. And then lastly, I want to make sure that I wanted to highlight, in terms of new jobs and promotions, we're looking at this EMBA. Is it worth the squeeze? Because it's a large money outlay. So are you getting promoted? Are you going back to school to get promoted within your current field, or are you looking to switch? I saw both, like Michael Gerardo, there it is. Gerardo, he switched slightly out of construction into development, but much better for his family. David Ning Chen from China used it as an opportunity to take his company that's making double-digit millions already and network with friends. And you'll see him if you ever take a global immersion class. I know Liz talked about going to Argentina amongst them. David now runs the gambit of where we're going next. So I look forward to you meeting him because he's a great guy. And if I could do it again, I definitely would. So I look forward to welcoming you all as Bruins.
Drew, thank you so much. You're making me want to go back and do it again as well. And I did it a long time ago. So appreciate your insight. And thank you for giving the shout outs to the faculty too. I think we don't spend enough time talking about our amazing faculty because our students are so amazing as well. But some amazing highlights that you've mentioned there, and great opportunities for folks to take classes from those faculty, whether it be part of their core curriculum or the many electives that Shannon mentioned earlier today. So I do want to open it up. I know there were a couple questions in the chat and would love to welcome people to either come off of mute and ask your question or pop it in the chat, and we'd like to hear from you now.
Hey, everyone. Hey, so thank you very much for sharing your experiences and the reasons why you chose UCLA. I think that was really helpful, and it gave me all the confidence for me to why choose UCLA. If there's one piece of advice that you could share with us that would help us make the most out of our time at UCLA, like for MBA program, what would it be? Thank you.
I'd say be intentional. Know what you're looking for, and know how to manage your energy. I'm careful to use time because there are going to be times where energy is what you have to manage with other life variables. There are more opportunities than there are time in a day. So just being mindful of what you're looking to yield from the program, I think will serve you well.
Thank you, Liz.
Right.
I want to double down on that if I can. May I, Debbie?
Yeah.
Speak to that. I don't think I touched on it. The big reason that I chose UCLA over UW was that the UW EMBA course didn't give you the variety of electives. I think that's why I went deep on the professors also. Many of those were elective courses. So speaking to what Liz says, be intentional. Know where you want to go with it because you're not going to be able to take all the electives, nor are they offered every quarter. So coming in with, I want to gain this out of my degree, come in with a game plan, and you're going to be able to take this class this quarter, and that doesn't fit with this, but it will fit next quarter. Yeah, and you'll just be able to maximize it.
Perfect. Thank you, Drew.
with the
I think
electives?
our dean likens it to a candy store. It's hard to pick and choose, but it's better to be wise and choose and be intentional, like Liz mentioned as well. So thank you for that insight. Yes, Evan, go for it.
Thank you. So for the electives, I was curious, is there more interest than there are seats, like some universities have?
Depends on the elective. I'll tell you that the happy class always fills up.
Right.
You can also ask to get accepted into the elective as well. So they might have like extra seats, or if there's only like 5 extra people, that the professors will usually allow those extra people to join. So I wouldn't say that you're going to be neglected from electives very often. I never saw that happen.
And to Liz's comments about managing energy, as you go through the ride, is it a sine wave in terms of energy, or does it progressively build over time?
Sine waves, roller coaster, swirl, like pick your direction, and you will feel it at one point. I jokingly, have shared in the past, like there were definitely ugly cry moments of like, what did I sign up for, and how will I manage, the next 24 hours. And I think that's where the support network comes in, right? Whether it's your fellow classmates or those closest to you outside of your professional sphere, is that those, boosts of encouragement to say, compartmentalize it. I just need to get through the next 4 hours. I need to get through the next 8 hours. I need to get through the next week. But going to the level of workload, it's intense. And I think depending on the program, you'll start to feel like if you get a few, hours, days behind, it's really hard to catch up. And so I do think that you'll feel a pretty wide range of emotions, but I think this is where the support network really, really goes a long way.
And to add to that, the group that you work in, that's another thing, because everyone understands that you do have ups and downs in your workload. So as long as you let your teammates know that you have workload and you have work pressures coming up the next week, everyone understands. Everyone is working, so everyone knows that happens. So they will pick up your slack for that week, and they will let you ride that week out. And provided it's a kind of balance, so next week someone else might have a higher workload, and then you pick up their slack. So it really helps. You work as a team, and that really helps.
It's very helpful. And last question I have for you guys is, because it sounds like you've all been on quite the journey to come through this, but if you can remember, what was kind of the biggest difference in mindset coming into the EMBA program versus being on the other side of it now, in terms of what have you noticed the difference?
I'm happy to go ahead, get it, Lindsey.
I think for me, it was just the confidence in building and really understanding, I think, holistically all different areas of the business. My own personal experience, what I've seen through my friends and colleagues, is that you start a career, right? And we can just say accounting, for example, and you can go really deep in accounting. You'll have like 9-10 years experience of accounting, but you haven't been exposed to like strategy or to like operations or to like other areas of the business. And this just gives you that whole holistic view to make you feel more confident when you come into a room, which I kind of wanted to answer Adol's question as well, is that I think it just gives you that whole breadth of information that you might not be exposed to on a daily basis. And it gives you more granular information so you can make better decisions at the same time in the different areas of your own company.
Thank you.
For sure. I wanted to add too, I don't think you can overspeak on the network and the resources that are there for entrepreneurs, whether it be going to the Center for Entrepreneurial Studies, the accelerator program that we have, the multiple people in each cohort who are entrepreneurs that you can connect with. And as Shannon mentioned before, there are a lot of people that either do the BCO or take a lot of the electives within the entrepreneurship specialization who work for big companies, and just getting, the back and forth from them, I think is a valuable piece of experience that you would have, within the program as an entrepreneur. So, all right. And there's a couple other answers in the chat. Anything else from the audience today that we can answer? Shannon, do you have anything?
I think Aman, I know, wanted to ask about, I do want to, because I want to hear, I know what I've heard, but like, as far as how much percentage would you kind of, remembering back, alumni say was group work versus like individual work?
So there is a set requirement that professors have to do with team assignments versus individual. I couldn't tell you from my memory, but the majority is teamwork. And that's going to be pretty standard across MBA programs, because you're going back to learn to be a team player, or to hone your skills at being a team player, because that's what most environments are. I know this might be contrary for people that are coming to be better entrepreneurs, but you're going to have to learn to play with your VCs. You're going to have to learn to play with your vendors. So it's a team environment. That's what an MBA is.
And to add, there will be assignments that you do on your own, right? There'll be different forums where you can chime in. And I'd say especially your last 6 months of the program is the equivalent like thesis project, right? So that will be, pretty much all in a group setting. But yeah, to echo what Drew shared, it is a combination. And I think the great thing, coming back to what Shannon shared on the mini board model, is you're getting to learn from those different perspectives in a small setting in addition to the classroom.
Just one thing I want to add to Abdul's question about entrepreneurship too. I did pop our video in there, but one thing I'll never forget, there was a guy named Austin Robertson, and I think he's a 2020. So Hari, I don't know if you remember him, but he had sold, he's one of my favorite stories. Like, he had sold his wearables company to Google. And then after kind of realized he didn't want to work at Google anymore, he was like an entrepreneur, and he came and he was like, should I get my MBA? Like, I don't know. And I was like, well, listen, most people would love to sell their company to Google. Like, no one's, that's like a dream come true. So maybe you don't need it. And he was like, all right, let me think on it. I was like, you'd be great. I'd love to have you in the class, but you got to do what's good for you. And the more he kind of researched, he was like, all right, I'm going to do it. And I'll never forget, he came up to me at graduation. He was like, man, I could have sold my company for so much more. I could have done so much more, he's like, I made so many mistakes. And I think that's the journey, sure, of any of us, but definitely of an entrepreneur. But so I think, Abdul, like, if that's helpful at all, I think getting some of that, like, so much of an entrepreneurship journey is like having to learn on the fly. And this will give you some kind of concrete frameworks to put against that. And I think you'll find there's a lot of really cool additional resources, even coming into the program as an entrepreneur, and just how to kind of grow that. So thank you so much for everyone that attended. I do, Vanessa, if you don't mind quickly just popping up, in the last few minutes, and thank you so much first to the alumni. Oh my gosh, I just love you all so much. And I so appreciate you being here. And, if you ever need anything from us, you know where to find us. But for those that are still on from a prospective student standpoint, just kind of letting you know that here's the application requirements. I know one of you had asked about GMAT, GRE, EA. Other schools still require it some. So please, of course, if other schools require it that you're applying to and you're studying hard, feel free to submit it to us. But we really, a couple of years ago, actually launched a pre-MBA math course that we prefer. It's 7 modules, taught self-paced, taught by a UCLA professor. And we prefer to ask our students who are entering our prospects, that or people who become students, that they don't have that quantitative background. We tell them we think that class is maybe better than taking the exam. So that's our theory around that. But then you will need your transcripts. There's a few essays, your resume to really help us understand your management journey, some recommendations. And then, some of our students who attended college outside the US, you may need to take a TOEFL or IELTS English proficiency exam. So this is the kind of stuff. Set up a one-on-one, come to my Q&A. We can dig into your specifics. And then just looking really quick when our deadlines are. So our application is live right now for both of our Executive MBA programs. Here are the upcoming deadlines, basically open through May 1st. But the sooner you apply, the sooner you know, the sooner you can start planning. But these are the deadlines for our Executive MBA. And then the next one is the deadlines for our Global Executive MBA, which is just a little bit sooner because that program starts in May. So again, please get in touch with us. Thank you so much for joining us. I can stay on for a few minutes, like if alumni feel free to drop, but if there's any other kind of urgent questions from the prospects, we can stay on to answer those for a few minutes. But otherwise, thank you so much and be well, everyone. Bye.
Hi, Shannon.
Yeah.
I had a quick question for you, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course.
So one of the things that really sold me was the mini board model that UCLA ENBA program offered. Does the group carry over throughout the whole year, or is the mini board group different for each course that you take?
Yeah, that's a great question. So basically your mini board team is for your, you get 2 of those assigned because so your first 2 quarters in the program, you'll have 1 mini board group that's assigned. The third and fourth quarter, a totally different group. And these are just your groups for your core classes. So those required about 2 classes each quarter that you take. But when you take electives, it's a totally different group of students because not every student takes the same elective and it gets mixed from different sections. So then you'll have organically other groups for those as well. And then your last 2 quarters in the program is when you do this capstone thesis, the business creation program or the strategic management research, you will choose your own group for that. We do always encourage you still think about creating a group that has some functional diversity of expertise, just because that helps as you put together a holistic business plan, but it's obviously not required. So that's how the division kind of the mini board group works.
Perfect. Thanks for the clarification.
Yeah.
And nice to meet you, at least via Zoom, Debbie. I know we exchange emails quite frequently, so thank you very much.
Nice to see you, Derek.
Anything else? All right. Well, thank you so much for joining, and so glad that you guys will be sending a follow-up with like a bunch of different resources. So please feel free to look at that. We do offer class visits and stuff if you actually want to come to campus for one of those. We have a big Dean's kind of campus welcome on October 28th. So definitely consider coming to that as well if you really want to, kind of as a next step, come for the campus experience.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.